Okay, the second item, Susie just has an informational update for the group on the summer program offerings.
So there's our brochure for summer, and then just to update, I just direct classes, but looking at the second page of that just shows the summer playground field trips, summer playground itself, we're looking at an average of 85 kids in here every day. Digital photography class, we've got, the list goes in a long order, obviously, but we're bringing in, 500 or so kids here throughout the summer. And we added some Compass, which is we're up to 29 kids, which is very exciting. Judy Ketterhagen is rolling that out. Yep. So exciting, the I Learn program, obviously. We added forensic scientists, cooking with math, which is exciting, with Debbie Mensch. So some fun classes, education classes, so a little bit of everything for lots of variety of kids. So that just shows the number of participants that are, as of today, just brought up numbers as of today, where the classes are, the dates they're all running. It started like through June, it runs through August. So we'll move forever every week, every month, to the beginning of August, and then we kind of shut down and then get ready for school again.
Susie, are there any objections if we keep the front door open since childcare is on?
The front door open?
Yeah, because today being the first day, is quite a few
Yeah.
people, which is good to see, but
Yeah.
if the secretary or myself aren't up front, they're locked out, then they're walking.
We had
Well, I
door-
think we had tried to
We had
get it to
signs
just
up.
one
Yeah, we had signs.
entryway.
Yeah.
You know, rather than have the traffic down that hallway.
So
that
leave them
comes-
locked?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Leave it locked and, Susie can put a sign in there, door B. I think they were
We
all
did.
told that.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
To go over to the.
Yeah,
That's
door
right
B.
here, yeah.
Yeah, the loop.
Typically, they ring the bell and
I
then read
know.
the signs. You get to reverse that?
Yeah, okay.
For
Put it over the bell.
The signs-
Yeah,
Put it right-
Yeah,
and then they won't even see it.
Yeah.
Just cover the
Sure,
bell.
side,
Just
yeah,
cover the
exactly.
bell.
Cover it up, lady.
That's
Well,
my
and we had
next,
camp convention this week, and plus rec department, so literally there was hundreds of kids.
so that's my
here
next
today.
question.
With parents and strollers,
That's my next
walking
question.
path.
Facilities themselves were never laid out for this rec department. The question is, should we have something that, either porta potties or something that gives you instant access? Because we don't want the
classes are
building.
in the building.
Yeah, I'm talking all the outside, when you have all the stuff out there.
I do have.
There's one out back.
For
Yeah.
sure.
They're behind the roof.
Yeah, what?
Fox River.
Yeah.
It's like
absolutely.
football, soccer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's one
We got one there right now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's two.
There's
Two, yeah, there's two.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
question, should we look at where we have them and when we need them?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, daytime's one thing, it's a day class, and you start here and go outside and come back in. It's different if you're coming in on the weekends and you're saturated on Saturday mornings, you know?
Well, there's no more Saturday morning stuff.
yeah, Saturdays are over, but during
Okay.
Saturday,
Yeah.
soccer season,
They go to
fall
the-
season, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they use the porta potties
Okay.
on Saturdays, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they do.
They make it come back.
Yes.
Didn't tip them over this year,
Yeah.
the first year.
Sure.
As long as they're not in there, we're good.
And the more you have, the
Coming
more
in-
chances of
Little
them
update.
tipping them over.
Coming as an action item then, in addition to the United Way partnership piece, because we're offering some academic pieces through the rec, there'll be a board approval of the academic program offerings. Because then we can claim summer school if we have enough kids. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
yep.
So that's just a little summary of Waterford Recreation for right now.
Thank you.
Great, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
The next item is the outdoor basketball court piece, and this is just a follow-up to our committee meeting last month about the basketball court between Fox River and this building, Evergreen. And the conversation or the question is can Fund 80, which is the community service / recreation fund a portion of that basketball court project or resurfacing, that type of thing. And after doing some checking with auditors and so on and so forth, the answer is actually no. Because we would need to do a time study to see how much the rec department actually uses it, and then only that portion would be able to be used. Does that make sense? So it's a general fund expense. So knowing that, the other piece that Ken probably needs an answer to sooner rather than later, even though there was consensus to do the basketball court piece, the vendor that was approved to take care of the Fox River parking in the back of the building, in the pathway along the side and all that type of stuff, was gonna actually use part of that basketball court, grind up and recycle basically the asphalt.
Use it for fill or reading.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so the point was is that,
Is it base back there or what?
What was,
Pardon me?
Is it base back
Yeah.
there?
was that asphalt contractors that we ended up going with for that?
No.
Pave-
Pave
Tech.
Pave Tech.
Pave time.
Which is a local company.
Alright. But
That
then
was
asphalt
what, option two?
contractors was the cheapest on the,
Yeah, the prices
Basketball
kind of
court.
jumped all over
Right.
depending on the project.
Yeah,
But as far as the
the-
Fox River was concerned, yeah, Pave
Right.
Tech was the cheapest.
and then asphalt contractors were the 10,261 on the basketball court, I believe.
No, that's all part of Pave
That's all I
Tech.
have left.
The
They give us a
issue that
package.
comes into play with Pave Tech is if they do the basketball court, there's a $2,300 deduct because they won't have to truck fill in.
Fill,
They can
okay,
use
alright.
the reclaimed asphalt from the basketball court.
So then off the 10,007, we're taking 2,700 off.
I think that's how it's written.
Yeah, I got, this is the one that we got.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that,
it's a
that assumes,
basketball court, it is asphalt. and those-
So then they would be the cheapest for that too then.
Correct.
but that assumes you're grinding it off.
Pardon?
That assumes you're grinding it off or chopping it off.
They were going to remove the whole thing.
Okay, so we're just getting rid of it completely.
Dan wasn't at the
No.
last meeting. just
No,
so you know.
yeah, the basketball court would be removed in its entirety.
Yeah.
That would be ground up and used for fill on the other projects at Fox River, and then we would just replace one basketball court. Right now, there's two.
Yeah, there'll only be one.
Okay. Is it going to be utilized, other than rec department for a little bit?
that's, we had
Yeah.
that
Middle
question
school
last
uses it
time.
daily
They
for
said it was
recess.
used a lot.
2 recesses a day. But they only use one court. That's why we looked at doing away with one of the courts.
We also talked for many years now of putting in extra parking over there.
We've gained that along the backside of Fox River. That's where we're putting the extra parking.
There was another issue, right?
With parking, we'd also have to do the driveways, we'd have to reinforce it a lot more, which would cost more money, so we decided not to at that time.
That would be kind of a traffic nightmare.
But we were hoping that, maybe the Lions Club or something could help pay for the blacktop behind Fox River there, since it'll be used for Balloon Fest. And
Not if they're
maybe they
paying
might wanna
for,
chip in.
not if they're paying for colorful signs on a path. Lion Club does make that kind of money.
Balloon Fest does.
So, what do we wanna do about the basketball court piece?
Well, the
Get-
big
get what way
question
they-
we were left with was whether or not we could get money out of the rec department, and if we can.
It was consensus basically to do it, it was just,
Yeah, it was just where we could get the money from.
Yeah, and it would be 8,000, I have,
How much is it?
The state answered our question.
it was 10,700 minus the 2,300 you said?
Correct.
Right?
So they'd be the cheapest one.
The
then,
8.2.
8.2,
I think you gotta put it back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously Darlene's using it.
Yeah.
Right
now it's getting pretty bad shape.
It's a rippled mess right now.
I walked
it
up there
is.
before and it's a disaster.
I'm surprised we haven't got people hurt already. while we're
Sprained
doing it.
ankles or something, or
Yes.
giant cracks and stuff.
It's been like that for the last few years. So.
Yeah, it's gotten considerably worse after this winter.
Oh,
Okay, so we're gonna put some new basketball nets with some chains on them and,
That-
There'll be new backstops.
That was gonna be my next question.
yeah.
Because the equipment's pretty rough too.
Oh, those are the original backboards.
If I'm mistaken, we took down the bottom of those trees a few years earlier, got rid of most of the trees there, so it's visible.
yes, yes.
Speaking of which, on your next month's agenda, can you add, I'd like these other evergreens
Be
cleaned up
trimmed
like the
up a
other
little
ones,
bit?
yeah. The other ones, you can actually see somebody standing in between the evergreens. These, the old ones that are out there still,
And
They
just
wouldn't hide
in the
anywhere.
front here of Evergreen?
Yeah,
evergreen and, yeah, I think most
Well,
of
I mean,
them.
along the road or just in
Yeah,
this inner
anyone that's
loop?
not cut from the bottom up.
I think it's the ones near the road mostly. You
Yeah.
got most of the other ones already, Ken. There might be a couple here, but
This
most
is
of
front
The
of
them.
Evergreen
center
mostly.
area hasn't been touched between the two drives.
Right.
Nor anything beyond the drive to the road
Right.
hasn't been touched.
I would
There might be a couple that we've trimmed up just through dead,
Yeah.
but I mean, we
I would clean
haven't
them
had
all up
anybody
again.
come in and trim them up as we did those.
Yeah. Because the ones you cleaned up and, kinda weeded out are looking real nice now.
Makes it look a lot more uniform then too.
Alright, so the basketball court comes to the
Yeah, I
board.
move to send that to the board.
Can I just ask on the basketball court, are you just resurfacing it, Ken, or are you?
No, hold on.
Okay, are you taking care of that water? I know you guys
There's a
divvied
new
out.
pathway, new
Okay.
basketball court, or new pathway on both ends on basketball court.
Okay, good, thank you.
2 hoops.
2 hoops, yeah, right.
Yeah, one
We
court.
just accumulate that water in that area.
How is it gonna be configured? There'll be a lot of extra space, just out of curiosity, with the extra space that'll be there.
Well, that,
There's
the
only
half
one.
that were not going to be replaced was one of the places we talked about putting the workout equipment
Right.
Okay,
on that half.
and this proposed doing it on the side here.
And now we
Yeah.
propose this, I mean, we could still do it there because we basically won't do anything with that area until a decision is made what we
Okay.
wanna do, because that area is somewhat lit already, just due to the fact that the one light on the east side of, Fox River shines that way, and once we get the components to redo this light, that shines that way, so that area then
Okay.
becomes lit as far as the exercise equipment would be.
You have any power in that center island?
No.
Nothing. Not that we've been trench over there.
Well, I mean, that's a waste of money to trench over there when you've got the two lights already on the building that would light that area up sufficiently.
Is there any way that that equipment would be used by the middle school Phi Ed department? If it was placed over here by the basketball?
I'm sure they would.
You know what I mean? I can see with that many pieces, they could do, a minute station or 2-minute stations.
And that's probably good.
Maybe instead of, when you come back with telling us if you fill in the culvert, and the equipment would go there, maybe that price versus just having it go back.
Oh, I'm sure to put it there would be
Right.
far cheaper
Oh,
than
yeah.
to do this.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But just having that,
Sure.
I think that's a big
The
question
options.
too, that's a good point, Kathy, is to ask, the schools, if they have the United Way thing, if they have the equipment, will the classes take advantage of that stuff? Will teachers take the kids out a lot in the summer and walk through it, and will the Phi Ed department use the equipment along the path, that type of thing?
I did talk to the Woodfield gym teacher, Evergreen teacher, and Fox River teacher. After school ended, they had a meeting over here at Evergreen, and I did show them the proposal and ask, this is what I'm thinking, what do you guys think, And they actually mentioned, make sure it's a core, you're doing all the core muscles, obviously. We definitely use it. I don't know about Woodfield, it's too much to walk over here. By that time, their class is over, and they walk back. But for sure, Evergreen, Joel said absolutely, and definitely Fox River.
Yeah, and the bigger kids at Fox River would.
Same thing with Fox River, though, if you're right outside the door.
Yeah, absolutely. The only, again, pros and cons, again, to where to place these pieces of equipment is when the other people are working out, it's kind of nice to do a cardio run for 15 minutes or run the loop or whatever, and then stop, do 10 push-ups, pull-ups, whatever. That's how those pathways work.
That's what it's designed for.
That's what it's designed for. If you talk to someone in the industry of fitness, that's really how it's supposed to be. It's laid out, sporadically across a field, not just in this little, not just doing, one core muscles in a group like this,
Right.
in this location. But again, pros and cons. It's up to you guys. Both have great ideas and,
And just for your information, the court will be on the side closest to the building.
You're not gonna go lengthwise, full court?
Same way it is right now.
That side of the
I know you've got two
island.
No, they
that
run
were
north
this
and
way, and then they
south.
got rid of that, and,
They run north
Yeah.
and south.
yeah, but you had two side by side, right?
Yeah, but there'll only be one now.
All right, so you can look at
Bunch
the
of one bigger one.
time. Anything else for either committee?
No?
So you're gonna come back with a proposal for layout,
Yeah, and what it costs,
next month, yep.
the court, and with whatever else you put there.
and to go ahead with the basketball court now.
But Chris, you don't see a problem,
So,
you don't see a problem with rec department paying for that equipment,
I do.
do you?
She's been checking on things.
I mean,
so-
I'm gonna check with them again, but as of this morning, they didn't want, if you were gonna go out that way, part of that isn't even on our property, right?
Right.
No, it's on high school.
High school.
They wouldn't look kindly on that if we're paying for it out of money that's, and it's not even on our property.
Yeah,
But this is a different scenario, so I'll have to check with them.
yeah, okay.
Because I think you would have to offer classes,
Yes,
fitness classes regularly, even if they didn't go, but fitness classes.
Well, yeah, but if the high school or the junior high uses it more than the rec department, again, wouldn't fall into the,
Right.
It's a percentage piece.
yeah.
No, I mean, it's just another reason why we,
Good close.
when we look at it, do it closer to here.
Yep. Good. Any other questions?
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
On that one?
This evening, Cannon and his group are gonna be discussing the plan for grades 3 through 5, and it's basically stemming from last month's conversation where the comment or the directive was bring us a more concrete plan. And so this is for grades 3 through 5 as far as technology, and the intention would be rolling this out next school year 14, 15. Mr. Heath.
All right. I have emailed you guys the information. There's only one adjustment on there, so I have a different copy for you, and it's just the price to the very top item. I went down from what it was. So as Chris mentioned, there is a need. We feel there's a need for more access for kids at the 3 through 5 level. We've taken care of K2. So the next window to look at is the 3 through 5, and provide just more access for them to go along with some of the curriculum activities they're doing, and just to enhance that piece for the kids at that grade levels. So, like as I mentioned, there's 4 different options that I emailed you guys, and like I said, the only one that changed is that very top one. It went down from like 366 to 350. So.
Hey, can you first go over what our current is?
Our
Our current usage or offering for technology 3 through 5.
So at every building, there's an access to a lab. So about 30 in the room, or at the lab, centralized area. And then in 3 through 5, they have 5 laptops in there currently, and 3 through 5. So
In each room?
in 3 through 5, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And the cart.
And the additional card with the thank you that we have in the library, there's about 15 that were brought down from Fox River before they had the 1-to-1. So they're small netbooks. When they received the 1-to-1, we're like, well, we'll find use, get more access. I mean, they're 1 gig of RAM, those kinds of things. I mean, they're very minimal, just as additional pieces for them. They're obviously not ideal.
Those were the original 1-to-1 units we had.
The blacks.
Correct.
No, these are before that, actually. They're before that. They're just small Dell Latitudes that were at the middle school. They're very tiny ones.
That-
So
Darlene, you had small Dells before this?
there were about 40 of them, maybe
Yeah.
total, 45. So we
Because then
just
we
split
had the
them.
Toshiba's, we moved the Toshiba's down to the schools. Right, but how many Toshiba's did we have? It was at 100-some Toshiba's, wasn't it?
And every building has.
So the third, what we did is to repurpose what we had. We took I call them the blacks, those would be the Dells.
Mhm.
And we put a cart of about 12 in 3/4 wings. And then the blues, which are the Toshibas, we made a cart of about 30, although we're on the 2nd year of that, so that number has decreased. And that would live in the 5/6 wing.
Okay.
And they putter. I mean, they're not ideal, but they work if they need to do a writer's workshop, or if they need to do very basic, but they are not the ideal machine. They're old, they're slow.
What do we have in the breakout areas?
The laptops in the 5/6 are the Dell laptops.
Okay.
More full size.
We just did those last year.
So as far as day-to-day usage, just like walk me through what typical, 3 through 5, how they're using the laptops.
I mean, like, curriculum-wise, I mean, you guys would have a.
Yeah, as mentioned, I think a lot of word processing during the writing block takes place. And also the kids are logging on so they can correct, whether it's through Google Docs or otherwise. They do run some of the interventions through those, so during our intervention time, the kids will come on, but as Sarah says, they're not real quick. So between the 4 or 5 that are in the classroom, then the cart of 15, a cart in our building is always out somewhere. It's in a class or something. And if any problem, then all we have is overlap time, where the teachers are, I need the cart, it's not available. But typically I see it more in the reading block, reading language arts block than I do during the math.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be in the classrooms, they're using a lot more of the Google Docs where the kids will be working on documents together. They'll be using it for science and social studies, for research, for writing. You'll see that like during social studies if they're working on like regions, they were working on regions doing investigation and research, and then writing and putting together presentations or putting together projects on that. So a lot more you're finding them where students used to work in the breakout areas. They're in the classrooms working, and they're also doing Compass learning with those during math. So they're
Compass is.
Oh, yeah, familiar with that. So I wanted to figure out if, are we at the tipping point where every student needs one, or we just need a few more better ones?
My bit of information to add to the table is, the types of things that they're doing with technology are, not as high level as we would like them to be. They don't have a device that they're currently working with, that they're really creating a lot of things versus, lower level tasks of, doing word processing or just basic researching. I mean, they're not creating a lot of, multimedia pieces or things that perhaps other people are doing at this age and grade level. So I think the devices, are inhibiting us in some way from doing some of those pieces.
Devices and access, I would say. I mean, when I sit with the teachers, I meet with the elementary buildings, a team of teachers once a month, and the big feedback is if we had more. A lot of teachers in the 3rd through 5th have started to build content, so they may have these resources in their classroom, but resources change. And so one way they're staying current in the classroom is to go out and find text, find resources, find information that would meet the needs of their students, one, but also meet that topic or that content area. And with 5 devices in the room and 25 kids, now that lesson takes times 5. So they, while some have started building content, more want to but fear, well, what if 2 of my machines are down for a week and it's hard for them to make it work with the limited devices. So I mean, the big piece of feedback I get is if we had more. Now, to answer your question, you said, are we at that tipping point of 1-to-1? I mean, sure, wouldn't everybody like 1-to-1, but I think that the way they envision their classroom in the room, that's not what they're thinking. We've had conversations about what does ideal look like, and we've come to 2-to-1, 3-to-1 type ratios. 1-to-1 to them is a dream, not the reality they see coming in the fall.
Okay.
Does that answer your
What
question?
does this equal out to about then? How many laptops to a student?
So if you have the 5 laptops that they currently have, and those are functional, and if we were to add what Canon and Kevin are proposing, which is another 5, just using that number 5 as our equalizer, that puts 10 in a classroom, which gives you probably 2-to-1, 2.5-to-1.
Okay.
Which then it's half the class. You know, and the other thing we've talked about at that grade level too is immediately they go to, so I have 10 and you have 10 and I could borrow yours. So immediately they go to that shared ownership, and I could use 20 if I needed them for this, and then we could schedule and share accordingly, which would be cool.
Okay. I only ask because, you know, that'll be the next question is, okay, well, now we have 20.
They figured
Couple
that out all
more,
on their
and
own.
then-
I could borrow theirs
Or
and
now we have
have
10, and then we can,
I
we're
think
almost there.
We gotta be smart about whatever we do, because we don't wanna go hodgepodge like what we got right now.
And that's.
Now, the
yeah,
only
exactly.
purpose of pushing the blues down there in the first place, the blacks, is because we didn't wanna get rid of them. We gotta do something with them. Blue was because we didn't want them anymore at the middle school, they weren't optimum for that. And we moved the other ones, right? But how about 120, we're down to how many now, on the blues?
Well, we have 30 in each building roughly, but you're
They're
saying
lucky.
less.
Probably
Yeah.
70 or 75.
Maybe
Yeah.
100.
Plus we
Yeah.
have some with hodgepodge that need parts. And
Yeah, so we kept some for parts and
Yep.
everything else, but the original intent was not to have instant access for every single student all at the same room at the same time, unless they check on the whole cart. So the real issue is we need to have more access capable books. What are we right now, how many in the K2 now, since we've got all the Apple iPads?
5. Yeah.
Okay, but they're used to touchscreens. That's what they're used to,
They're used to
right?
kids.
The kids are used to
Little
touchscreens. Most of these K2s aren't gonna know what a laptop is a couple years from now. They're gonna be touching a screen that might not be moving, and you're gonna say, right? So I don't know that I would recommend looking at a laptop anymore for that group. Now, you talk about doing a lot of high-end media stuff. I think you're gonna have to,
I don't know that I would say high-end.
yeah, you're gonna have to kinda weigh that one with what they can,
But they're doing free agent type things with their iPads, so we don't wanna go too far away from that.
right, so,
Because you don't wanna have them making videos and stuff and then not.
right. That's where I think a cheaper tablet is the better route to go for them. Because tablets can hold up pretty
A
well.
cheaper tablet would not allow them to do something such as compass learning or any other test-taking software or word processing? Have you ever tried typing on a tablet before?
Sure. Get a
Are you able to do?
Bluetooth keyboard, works
several-
great.
Okay, but that's an additional peripheral. That's
Oh, I know.
about $100.
Yeah. It's
So-
usually the protector too when you
I
cross
think
it.
when we had the discussion, or I had the discussions at my 3 elementaries with the teachers, and of course, it always comes to what they need. And I said, well, you know, if we're gonna, let's talk about that for 5 minutes. So if there's 3 devices on the table, laptop,
Mhm.
Chromebook, iPad, what do you, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, see as the optimal machine for your grade level? And they all, most not having touched a Chromebook, but when we talk about what can a Chromebook do, and based on the fact that we have really made a significant move to Google Apps as our platform for so many things, they were all very comfortable with moving to the Chromebook realm. When we talked about iPad, while they're not uncomfortable with moving to an iPad type device, they worry what they will lose.
Would the Chromebooks allow us to use them for like smarter balance and math testing and help
Yes,
that
absolutely.
process also?
Full test
Or
set.
like an iPad or those things wouldn't support that?
Not ideal, no.
Right.
Well, and I think you can also meet in the middle, and one of the options does with the Chromebook that has the touch screen.
Yeah, but then you start with that cost.
Actually, I think it was more, which one was that Canon that had the touch screen? Was it the
That'd be
HP?
the Acer.
The Acer? That was one of the lower end.
On the back, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with Acers, and we gotta take a long-term drop handling thing because those things are
Oh,
well built, have issues.
I guess another question I had asked Canon was looking at consistency among devices up into Fox River and along the way with where you folks want to go. And management-wise for the IT department, you know, having similar devices, the same device, the more homogeneous it is, the easier it is. When we look at a device for the younger ages, kind of be looking at that as well and say, hey, can we do the same device or the same Chromebook? Will it work up through the grades? So when we need to repurchase, we're just repurchasing the same thing type of, you know, the kids are used to it, we're managing the same devices type of thing. So do we have any idea where we want to be?
Curriculum wise, I mean, we haven't explored the 7-8, 6-8 piece yet.
Well, they
Are
have
we
different, we
thinking
have different
Chromebook
needs.
then too, or?
I mean, certainly could have a basic need of a Chromebook that way, but then you have to look at what your technology needs are for like your related areas, related arts area, art, music, STEM, you know, so you have to.
Right.
But you could have, you certainly could have a Chromebook as your basic tool for the middle school students and then just have, you know, students have access to other types of technology that will be more robust for the different courses that
The
they
way it
have.
stands, they could do everything they could do with the Chromebook that they're doing right now. Being in the Google world, being on the,
I mean,
in
everything's
the
online.
cloud,
Right.
if you will, plus our
Everything's
internal
online.
Yeah.
infrastructure that's handing everything to
Right.
them, so.
I mean, Sarah and I both have Chromebooks just because we were headed that way, and so we have our own personal devices, and I have found the Chromebook to be pretty good until I wanted to do some high-end kind of media things the other day, but otherwise, I think it's a pretty versatile piece.
For the price, it was good.
Yeah,
For the-
very good,
And if you need
Very
to
good.
jump to a bigger thing, well, then
Right,
you're
then I
different
can-
system.
right.
And that's where you have that in special locations, every kid doesn't.
A
have
powered
high-end
desktop or
machines.
something
Sure.
over there
Right.
for video or whatever.
And
But
that's
it
where
meets the
labs
basic
come.
needs.
My question is on the security end of it. Is this gonna integrate to our existing system with no issues?
We currently have a small pilot going right now with about 5 of the Samsung model
No threes
Chromebooks.
or tabs, are they?
They're the Series 3 Chromebooks, which actually is listed in here. And they've worked with our network infrastructure without any issue.
My son's got a Samsung, they all got, half the family switched to Samsung phones. I think they work better than the iPhone, and I've had iPhone forever since the beginning. So I can't say that switching to Chromebook would be a good idea. Because all the apps, all the control, everything on that thing seems better, right?
And it's so fast.
It's
You open it up and
fast,
they're on.
It integrates with everything Samsung.
Battery life,
Battery life lasts forever, and it's just a great product. The Samsung is, but why? Because Samsung built all the Apple product. They don't any longer, But they did, so they know all the ways to build them. Whereas Acer, I've had numerous Acer products, and I don't know that I would ever go with an Acer. It just isn't the best build typically. It's low end, it's a consumer product, but it's. So if you were to go with like a Samsung 3 and put a keyboard flip on it for a cover,
Are you talking about tablet?
Tablet
yeah.
or the Chromebook now?
The Samsung.
Well, your Chromebook, so
Samsung.
your Chromebook's already got a keyboard, but it's not touchscreen.
Well,
If you went with a touch and put a keyboard,
But then we're also talking about Android versus
that,
Chrome.
exactly, there's an issue going between Android and Google Chrome.
Okay.
With Android, you're not as easy logging into your Google account as you would on Android, whereas Android is revolving, or I'm sorry, the Google Chrome OS revolves around
Around Google.
your Google account. Android's not so much. It is only very recently where you were able, and it's only in select types of phones and tablets where you can choose a different user. And even then, it's not a very easy task. So that's one of the benefits of going to the Chromebook, is that once you power it up, it asks you for your Google email and your password. And then once you log in, all of your extensions that you would have normally if you were on a computer, on a Mac that had Google Chrome, even on Linux, it'll pop up with all your extensions from there. And then if we have our management piece, then we can also have our management policies come over. So the homepage for Waterford can show up immediately. We can have it so it shows certain things like the home button, which normally doesn't show up, things like that. But if you look at a tablet piece, you're looking at Android, which is a whole different ecosystem.
well, yeah, but then again, Android's populating the majority of the world now for everything. So, why are we looking at that?
I think from a management piece, that would be a whole ball of wax, as Kevin's saying. I mean, we had a user from kindergarten, we sync it every night to Google every night, and they're set and ready to go. So they could, currently as it is, they go out and log into the lab into Google Chrome. They are automatically integrated and they have an account and ready to go.
So when India had it come out with the $38 tablets that they were handing out, what operating system did they use?
Must be a flavor of,
You're talking about the XO, I believe, and that was the $100 laptop, and they also made the tablet. That wasn't Android based, but keep in mind too, to keep costs lower, that's why they went to an Android base. It cannot function the same way as what a Chromebook can, whereas we can do compass testing, we can do maps testing on a Chromebook. I'm not too sure if you can do that on an Android device, because normally on an Android device, you're looking at a very smaller screen. You're looking at, if you want to have a keyboard or mouse, that's a peripheral, and even then, you don't really have a mouse feature set. So there's a lot to that. I mean, there's a lot of difference between the two. If you want to go and look at tablets, then you're going to have to look at peripherals then too, and that just adds to the cost.
Now, we did buy some, what was it, Nexus tablets at the title for, out of some title funds for Trailside.
Yeah.
And the kids thought they were really cool, but when they started using them,
What does Nexus run?
didn't cut it because it was so
270
small and
something, yeah.
unmanageable.
270.
Price or the
No, what is it?
Android.
Oh, Android, a flavor of Android, yeah.
Okay. So I thought the main problem with it originally was we couldn't use, we had to use a laptop because we couldn't get the notebooks or whatever the notebook program we wanted on the Android system or something.
I think for 3 through 5, that notebook piece is not valid. I mean, they're operating without notebook software that you're probably referring to, smart
Okay.
notebook software.
They're not as dependent on
No.
it. If they
Not an
are,
issue.
it would be at the teacher level, and that's, they
No.
still have their teacher laptop. That's as far as
Okay.
their dependency
So they're
goes.
strictly just access to the internet. Once they're
Internet
online,
and
everything's there.
internet-based programs
Yeah.
to do their grading and
So
their.
it's really just a browser is
sifting
all
and-
you got.
But I guess, I mean, if you look at it for $239, you have if we're looking at the Samsung, you have a self-contained unit, has a keyboard, has a mouse,
Mhm.
has everything you need right there. You know, you have no lost peripherals, you have done deal. You know,
Yeah.
you have your laptop and it's good to go. And I guess,
I would agree.
yeah, and from my personal opinion, at that age, okay, it's when you're starting to make that jump. Okay, now we're gonna use the keyboard, we're gonna use more of a traditional interface than still doing the tablet.
What does that do for a mouse? Bluetooth or something?
Oh, he has a touch.
A little touch
Rollable in it?
Just a square touchpad.
So we should track that.
Yeah, if you want.
I actually have an example of the Samsung Series 3 and the HP 14 here, if you would be interested in
Yeah.
looking at it.
Yeah,
Let me just grab it really quick here.
So I'm assuming the battery is exceptionally
Absolutely.
good on the Samsung. What size screen is it?
11.6 in that range. As you're looking at this, the only piece I guess you guys want to think about or not is the sturdiness of these versus one of the top two choices.
I also have two of the Samsung Series 3s.
I was gonna say, it's kind of heavy.
Yeah, the one concern on the
That's why.
Samsung is that.
Yeah.
is
I
that-
was gonna say, oh, it's kind of thick and heavy.
It's a big brick, yeah.
What about turning it on?
If you're interested in the specs of the different Chromebooks, I actually do have a paper here that identifies the battery life on them, memory and things of that nature.
I'm interested in the battery. If you folks tell me that the memory is adequate, I'll believe you. But this time I'll be interested in the battery 100%.
The battery does vary between the models. The one that you're looking at right now, the Samsung Series 3, is actually the lowest out of them all. And that's because it's an aging Chromebook. And we're looking at about 6.3 hours. Whereas the HP 14 there, that one actually holds a battery life of about 9.5 hours, give or take, depending on usage.
Sure.
So the benefits of the HP 14 is that it has the 14-inch screen, which is one of the first to have that kind of setup. Otherwise, what you're normally seeing is about 11-inch screen.
Which one is the touch one you're thinking?
Which one's the touch one? Sorry, just
The
asked you that.
Acer?
The Acer.
Yeah, we don't
Acer.
have
Yeah,
the Acer on.
I don't know, part of me,
Seems like HP's more robust too for when kids use it.
That's correct.
Yeah, I like the screen size, but I think that's pretty.
Speak a little bit about that
I'm
too.
trying to picture like as an adult, I like
No.
big screen, big keyboard, but then I'm thinking as a
Yeah.
kid, third, fifth grade.
Little fingers. We did have a problem with those, the blues, in that they were too small.
And those are
And you had to kind of sit like this when you were typing.
Right, netbooks had a consistent size. I think it was around, it was like about 9 to 10
Yeah,
inches.
that's a 10 screen.
And now netbooks have become extinct. They no longer are sold. Mainly for the fact that they use an add-on processor, which is not really used much in many devices nowadays. It's considered low powered. The screen size too is, like as you mentioned, very small and usually inadequate nowadays for a clamshell type
Yeah,
device.
and that the problem was, is it was a commercial product and the hinges started dying.
And that's the one, I mean, one of the concerns with the Samsung that we have is, well, if you look at the pin and the adapter on the side, it's a very tiny adapter pin. A lot of those, when we hear of school districts using the Samsung, is a lot of breakage there. And the hinges, I mean, obviously they're not as built as tough as we go on, so I don't know if
It's not designed for kids in third
Yeah.
and fifth grade running around.
And the worry is the plug being a pin, you know, kids plugging them in and out themselves, that would be a concern only because it's that small little pin and
I'm curious as to.
them breaking inside.
Don't test the ruggedness on that one too much. It's a
No,
rental.
yeah,
so-
yeah, easy on that
Drop,
That one's
drop
already
test.
bad.
You're capable of fixing stuff, I have full faith in you.
We could drop it from
Have
6
you,
feet.
out of curiosity, as far as have any of the kids use the HPs versus just
We
to
don't
see how they
only,
gravitated?
yeah,
or-
we only have the HP, or I'm sorry, the
Samsung.
Samsung in-house. This was actually a rental that we borrowed from a neighboring district.
How long have they been in use?
6, 8 weeks.
How have they held up so far?
I mean, you're looking at it, it's
Yeah.
fine. The kids are not adverse to the size, that was in the comments that the kids made, it was not, it is too small, they don't care. I mean,
Okay.
that's irrelevant
Probably
to
like
them.
really small.
They like that they open the lid and they're in. They
Right.
like the speed, they like the
But the
function.
battery won't be the issue anyways on this, because we're not going to 1-to-1, it's all day
Right.
long usage.
Yeah. I guess the only thing is, what is your expectation for these devices to last? Is it for a year, 2 years, 3 years? I mean, I guess we have to consider that, and then that will determine too.
I guess
brand.
one way I looked at it, and I mean, obviously, if you're gonna have a Lenovo or an HP, they're gonna last much longer than either the Samsung or the Acer. I mean, that's pretty much guaranteed. But then I kind of looked at it from a different vantage point of, for the cost difference. Now, if you looked at going with the highest price one, then you changed it a little on me, but with the Lenovo, you could, for the price you would pay for those, you could replace 60 of the Samsung laptops for the difference. You could replace 32 of the HPs, and you could replace 38 of the Acers. Saying you did the most you had to replace. So just to kind of, I mean, that's just one way I looked at it. Said, okay, well, we could go with arguably the better hardware in the Lenovo or the HP, but for the price difference, we could replace 60 of the Samsungs by the time we incurred the same amount of cost. So it'd just be another way of looking at it, depending on what we thought breakage would be and everything
Well,
else.
the only thing I would say about that is looking at past experience with our deployments. We had the Toshiba netbooks, and at that point, it was looked at similar to how your viewpoint is now. Well, they're cheap, and we could replace 30 of them if they go out. But the failure rate was obviously quite high. We still have many damaged units that we scavenge for parts at a time. But they only lasted like a year, I believe, in a one-to-one environment.
Okay,
before they had to be replaced.
that's a good point. I just, looking at this with the expectation that we think these are at least better than that, either the Samsung or moving on the way up, that they aren't really bad to begin with, that there's some level of quality to it.
The Samsungs, from polling of other districts, there has been some comments made about them, about their reliability and their construction. The issue with the AC adapter was already brought up. It is a very small adapter which can easily be bent or broken into the device, which effectively makes it useless.
Okay.
And the screen can be affected by pressure damage. If, let's say, books are stacked on it or multiple ones are stacked on it, it can actually cause damage to the screen. And the touchpad has been known to be very vulnerable to, after excessive use, the left and right click on it will stick. So then you'll be clicking all over the place when you're not even touching it.
All right, how long have these districts been using them on average?
I believe McGuanago's used them for a couple of years, and then they started going to the HP 14 here and a couple other devices that are out there.
Okay.
But general outlook of the Samsung Series 3 was negative.
I want to say Sheboygan, I saw at a presentation, they were doing a one-to-one deployment. They were on year 2 going in, and that was one of the things in their presentation is the ruggedness and the sturdiness and how, they did bend and break and crack. So those were concerns. And just living the the ones we did with the Toshibas, I guess that is a big concern that I have as well. But.
Okay.
Also too, when I was doing some research on these devices too, when you're looking at warranty, just the basic warranty that they come with, the Samsung is also the one with the least amount of time. They give you 90 days. That's compared to 1 year, which is mostly standard nowadays for basic warranty.
All right, so your guys' opinion, you could pick one.
If it was ideal, I would recommend the Lenovo's first, and then the HP as the second choice. Just from a pure ruggedness, sturdiness. The Lenovo's a business class grade. I mean, you can drop that thing, the hard drive's not gonna go out on us and those kinds of things. I mean, I know I get it, there's a cost factor, but that'd be the ideal scenario.
Bigger picture, what I would like to see done from a systemic snapshot.
Is there a problem?
It's distracting.
Oh, well, I'm just taking a picture of the group. Sorry.
The bigger picture, what I'd like to see done is a procedural process set up of purchasing technology. So what I'm getting at is last year we took care of the tablets, primary wise. Secondly, then if we can get something for 3.5, we already agreed to cycle around for a device for Fox River the following year.
Agree, and then you get in the cycle.
Yeah.
Exactly, and
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was going with my question before. Like, what are we looking at for Fox River to kind of like lay it all out there, and then whether it's going to be similar hardware, not similar, but kind of have a roadmap there, and then like any corporate business would do, every couple of years, then or every year you cycle out a different section of the sales and marketing or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Then you always know what your expense is going to be, and it's just
You gotta
kind of
allocate the funds on a yearly basis and stick with it.
always there, and you just do it.
So to answer the question, these things should last a minimum 4 to 5 years.
Yes, I
The
would say.
Lenovo's for sure.
Yeah.
the very limited use in the 3.5
And now-
compared to what our 1-to-1 was.
And they're not going home.
And all they're doing is accessing the web. They're not gonna do digital photography on this, right? No cat work, I know, right? So it's just a web access
They should
point.
be able to take some pictures.
Yeah.
They should be able to make a video.
Upload
Yeah.
those things in their presentations, they do put them in
Yes,
there.
it should be able to access the web and it should be safe. is
They
what
should
it
be able
needs
to
be.
create a presentation that doesn't have them clicking the presentation, because that's what is 21st century now.
I don't know if I understand what you're saying.
They should be able to create a visual presentation, it's even in the Common Core, where they are not, they don't have to be there, they can produce a presentation, a multimedia presentation, even with their own voice, that they don't have to physically be there to present.
Sounds like something the national government say. Unfortunately, for the rest of the world, we know that you have to be in front of your own presentation, you're, deriving it. So.
Well,
By
their
the way-
presentations are quite
By the way, when
basic, so it takes
Siri
them-
doesn't still work, and everybody in the world owns it.
Oh,
So, anyways, I think the least expensive way with the sturdiest unit is the best way to go. 4 to 5 year cycle. And I think we should be going that direction on all grades, except for the K2, which I think the Apple product had better things. But eventually they'll be overcome. So,
So which product are you recommending?
I'm leaving it to them to tell me which one they're recommending.
Oh,
And it sounded like Lenovo was the one they were saying.
If you want 3 to 5 year window, I would say the Lenovo's.
Lenovo is also the most up to date. The other ones have been around for several months now. We're talking in terms of memory and stuff, it's double the amount of memory as what the other ones have. The processor is the bleeding edge, and it's one that is actually known for to be power sipping for its technology in laptops, so that means that you'll get more battery life out of it.
Is that why there's a blank in the battery life?
The battery life on that one, the reviews haven't came out yet, but the Haswell architecture has been out for a long time now, and that is its major gain in that processor for Intel, was that it is meant to go and be for laptops or netbooks or small tablet devices and be power sipping.
And the connector on that one is what?
On this guy here,
Yeah.
it's a AC adapter, which does make a difference. There are some that are out there that use USB.
Yeah, we don't want that.
But it's located on the side here, so it's a larger barrel than what you would find on the Samsung.
Okay. Yeah, to me, if they say that's the way to go, I say we go that way.
So there'll be a recommendation then coming to you next week.
I'm definitely between those two, the Lenovo or the HP. I think we'll get the most out of them. The only thing that concerns me about the HP is that's new to the market, right?
The HP, this one's been out for a little bit now.
A little bit, has it?
Yeah.
The Lenovo's,
The new one?
the version we're looking at is new to the market. They had one before that, the newer one's just thinner and lighter, yeah.
Alright. But the 14 inch has been out for a while?
Yeah, a little bit now, yeah.
Okay. Alright.
Okay, and this is gonna put how many in each room?
10.
Well,
Five.
Well, five.
Five in
Five.
each room, and then you have the
Yes.
5 laptops,
Right,
so
so
they
10
close
altogether.
them.
And
They'll use
and-
Wait a second, so you're gonna keep the 5 laptops and put 5 of these?
Mhm.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
They need more.
I know more is one thing, but what I'm saying is I don't think it's a good idea to have mixed things in the room.
Well, if you look at it that way,
Just with that old stuff.
any desktop has the ability to use Google Chrome, and that's
Right.
exactly the same thing as what you would have on a Chromebook. You sign in, you get your extensions, it's the exact same method. So there's no difference if you get a Chromebook or if you're on a PC or desktop, it's gonna have the same look and feel
Once
basically.
you're surfing, you're there.
Yep.
The kids aren't gonna have an issue.
Okay.
I mean, they transfer between A, B, C, D, and they just do it.
The only reason I'm saying this is, problem in the past has been we buy new stuff and we push the old stuff down. We never get rid of anything, it seems, till we finally got rid of those desktops.
I think that's the
Thank goodness,
cycle we were
right?
just talking about.
Right.
Yeah, but we gotta get the
Eventually.
cycle of don't push anything down, get rid of it, sell it off. I'd rather scrap something sometime and put all the same product in so you don't have to worry now. Another 2 years from now, you're gonna be saying, why do we have these black ones in here, you know?
Well, I think it probably comes down to then to is the cycle the whole grade? Or the
I
whole?
think so.
Or is it, where we're doing piecemeal, like we would be doing right now?
For example, the cycle at the middle school should be one whole grade level at 1 year. Right, same thing on,
Right, so then you're doing a grade a year and.
right, and I think it should be a 7 and 8, a K2, actually, it probably should be a 3-6 is what it should be. Because they can all use the same product probably.
Or 6, 8,
Yeah, 6,
Or 6, 8, it's gonna be
Oh,
6
it's
now. Other than K2, which probably needs a tablet that's easy to touch and do whatever.
Right, so kind of what we're talking about now, the difference being doing half versus
All of it.
all of it.
Right. I mean, those are fairly old now, the black ones, right?
Oh yeah, they're
We have
going
put
on
it by
4.
5.
Yeah, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question. How much time and effort do you waste on the black ones?
Well, the
Are
idea
they
is once,
so good?
if we go this route, we would phase those. You're talking about the minis?
Yes.
You would phase
What
those
are
out.
What are those, 8 feet?
Down.
And keep the, what's the other color? Blue?
The Toshibas, the
The
blues.
blues.
There's black.
The noobs.
Black,
I
blues,
don't know the color codes yet.
Yeah, me neither.
That's one thing I'm thinking. I think we need to say scrap the minis, get them out of there, put all 10 per class or something. Cover 2 to 1, right?
So we'd be
So
talking
you wanna double
double.
set
Then you're saying double, because I mean, ultimately what we're proposing here is keeping the laptops that they have to get teachers to the place of having 10. So we are doing what you said, we're mixing it, the laptops
Yep, I know it.
and the, so we're trying to.
My sentiment is get rid of the
multi-purpose.
laptops and put all new Dell, or not Dell, excuse me, Lenovo,
So 108,900
Chromebooks.
$40.
We're gonna be flush with money after we put K4 in.
That's not true, I'm over here.
You tell yourself that.
At least that's our sentiment. So I don't think skimping a little bit to keep pushing blacks down on whatever is a good way to go. Why don't we just shut them out of there and sell them? And put 10 per room.
What does that look like for our budget?
Doubles it.
Right, I mean, I understand that, but I mean,
Well, there's a couple of ways to approach that. We can designate some money in the fund balance, because we're anticipating a surplus at the end of this year. So we've got that possibility. Other than that, we could, I mean, it's gonna tie his hands. I mean, because typically we do $300,000-$400,000 a year.
Yeah, but we're done with servers and
Switches.
backup and memory and hard drives, all that stuff for years.
Backup of years. Switches and servers, I agree with
We
you,
have
yes.
top of the line servers, we don't need to replace servers.
well, looking from your standpoint, from the tech department, what does that do to the budget? Are there other, like when we say here, future planning, what does that do for your future planning?
As Dan mentioned, Chris asked me, what else do you need switches, and that we are done with switches for quite a while. We just replaced all those. Those would be a big expense in the servers for sure, a big expense. So those are out of the way.
Big stuff's done for a few years.
But we do have backup that we need to come back and talk about future planning, but that's not $50,000-$60,000, so.
So I think we got room in the budget for the next year here.
That being said, I also don't wanna get in a situation where, we can't get an extra aide in a building, or we can't do this or that because we spent
No,
all the
it won't-
money
it won't
on
impact like that.
laptops, or, I wanna make sure that we're thinking of the whole school.
No,
versus
because
just-
you're running off of baseline budgeting on this. If you say you have $500,000 in for tech, but you don't need that $500,000 this next year because you got the big ticket items gone, putting in an extra $40,000 for tech is not gonna kill you. And we pushed to fund balance this year. We pushed to the fund balance the year before that. We're gonna pull from fund balance with 4K, but I still think we got the room.
I mean, if we wanna get in a cycle of doing this, the first
Yeah.
pill is always the hardest to swallow,
You're correct.
kicking it off.
So the hard one to swallow was doing an entire middle school. That was
Yeah.
hard. And we did that 2 years after we did it the first time. That was hard to swallow. So I don't want to keep sticking our tech department with bad quality blues and blacks that we don't necessarily want.
The kids either. I mean, we want everybody to be efficient and productive.
Yeah,
So
I would recommend we do that.
My only hesitation is just the difference between Lenovo and the HP, just because, I mean, there is a significant price difference between the two. And just to be sure that it's worth the extra money to go with that versus, I mean, the HP makes a good product too.
Right. The only thing with the HP, you're right, is if you look at the actual, just the bottom line, what we need for it, I think there's actually the bottom line analysis, the Lenovo came down lower overall cost. So it's 54.
Oh yeah, you
50
did
versus
drop it
50.
on.
Yes,
so
I did.
drop the
Yep,
350.
yep.
You saw
Or,
the, you were going
did
over
what?
the original figures,
Yeah,
which is,
which is another.
can we get them a little, if we buy twice as many now, will we get a better price?
That's what
I actually
asked.
went back and asked, that's why I went down, and
I
I
asked
actually
them
went
that.
back and asked them again, this is what they gave me.
Oh, they did. Okay, so they did.
Well, from
bargain with you a little.
366 to,
Okay, that's something.
so,
Good.
And we
So if we double it, will they drop
Yeah,
another
do it
10 apiece?
again.
yeah. I
Come
can
on.
ask.
That's, I mean, that's a big increase.
Because here the thing is, I mean, you can buy
Have
brand
Dan
new
negotiate.
from anywhere. You can buy brand new from anywhere. So it's different when we were getting the refurbs. And he was giving us a 3-year deal on replacement of problem pieces.
We're still hamstrung by quantity, though, we can't just go to eBay or just because
No,
of the
I understand.
quantity. Okay,
But you're ordering, it's not
Yeah,
like you're gonna
absolutely.
say, give it
Yeah.
to me tomorrow.
absolutely.
So the question is, what's in their
Next week.
process line anyway? It's not in the pipeline, it's not in the pipeline. It's only somebody that can manufacture. But I think we do that, I think we sell those, the blacks, get them out of there, have the same thing throughout there. We got all in with 3 through 5 taken care of for at least 5 years. Preferably more, because they're really only accessing the internet, and they shouldn't be carrying it around that much. They're stored in the carts, they're not going home. Shouldn't have books crashing screens, shouldn't have pencils stuck in them. Right?
Shouldn't.
I mean, I'm using the same laptop now, I've got a nice Sony for 6 years for business, with no issues. I can't see where we can't have just accessing the internet and use it for several years until I show you guys accessing the internet. We got a new processor, it'll be fast.
I do think they do more than just accessing the internet, but I do think it will last without it going home.
Yeah, at least 5 years, I'm thinking.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
All right, recommend going forward.
Second.
Any more on that one?
On that, no, on Trump. That's all included.
It's all in the budget,
cost. Yep.
Now, you are not buying like super secret computers to program it for special things, all that good stuff, right?
I'm sorry.
You're not buying super secret computers that only the teachers can use to program certain things because they can't do something and,
No super secret.
oh, okay.
You can tell you, but then he'd have to kill you.
So right now, we have one super secret Apple somewhere, right?
Super secret.
I think there's
Yeah.
a couple now.
Are we doubling?
Yeah.
Yes.
Couple
Is there? I'd like to know who's the teachers using them and are we really utilizing them?
I said I volunteered.
Yeah.
Because we have what, two, one per school, I don't remember.
But I mean, you're doubling.
Maybe we only have one.
I thought we had one,
Yeah.
because you're just pushing the updates.
Yeah.
All right, are you done with that one then?
Yep.
Future planning?
Future planning is 2 talking points. First off, a fiber update.
Yes. Currently, some of you know, but currently we're renting fiber going from Woodfield over to Trailside. It's a 1 gig line, and we pay $1,000 a month for that, which has come down from the previous negotiations. It's coming due in December, so I guess the question to the school board members is, how would you like us to proceed? One thing we've looked at is eliminating the lease and looking at burying our own fiber, and then we can light up with our own optics, however beefy we want the
Especially with ripping up Main Street.
connections. What's that?
Especially with ripping up Main Street. We go hand in hand with
Right,
that.
absolutely. So I guess that's what we need direction from you, is do you want us to continue with TDS and do the 1,000? With that in mind, there will be an upfront cost, and
We
they can
can't
structure
get
that.
line of sight, and you can buy some great Russian-made antennas right now that get 10 gigahertz out of the thing. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What we could get approved of.
I can lease from my building right now, which has no access for internet anywhere, in the middle of Waukesha. And I can lease that for a 1 gig line a month, cheaper than you're buying right now for the fiber. So what I'm saying is technology has kind of surpassed that, right? we should be looking for some. I wasn't in favor of this last time we did this,
What's that?
paying them $1,000 a month for a line.
We've had the tower rental from Evergreen to the tower over to Trailside. Obviously, that was years ago, and as you mentioned, technology has gotten better as far as beaming and all that. Haven't looked at that route, but when I briefly discussed it, I mean, it's still, you're still line of sight, you're still going airwaves. We had a lot of hiccups with doing that route in the past. Fiber that we have in between buildings, solid, we can do what we need as far as speeds and connectivity and redundancy.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add when we met with the fiber people? Okay.
I guess the point with the fiber aspect is, obviously like Han said, there's an upfront cost, and it's fairly sizable. We could look for partners in that, in other words, sharing the expense with the high school, perhaps the village. I'm not clear if that's something you want us to check into.
Where does Keith tap off of right now?
Where does he, I'm sorry?
Where does he tap off of right now?
I'm not positive where it's coming.
I would say you should be talking to our village hall, talking to Rebecca and ask Rebecca. The original intent and plan a decade ago was a campus theory where it was brought in because the library needed high-speed access. And that was supposed to give everybody at the schools high-speed access. And it was all this great stuff. And TDS is given the rights to operate in the village and the township of Waterford. They don't just get those rights because they're here. They're given the rights by the local municipality. So there's no reason we should be gouged monthly by TDS for a fiber line which costs them $0 to maintain. Or let's say almost $0 to maintain. Have you had any failures on our fiber?
Through TDS?
Yep.
No,
I mean, have you ever had to call them and say, fix our fiber?
I have not.
So that means our fiber has never failed, so they never modified the connection, never had to use a new fiber. There's zero cost to what they were doing.
With the move to so many services being hosted, what are we still running in-house that requires the connection?
So we're using it for phone. Anything on the network that we currently still have users having network shares that they're accessing. Moodle, which is all housed here as well. So those would be the big pieces.
I'm currently, I've been doing lots of training and studying on our Nobel system, so I've now gotten to the point where I can start going and deploying patches through with Nobel and also applications to our labs and to our teachers' machines. Full-fledged applications, which we in fact did earlier this year for the middle school, in putting a writer's workbench onto every single student's machine without touching it, and also to the testing software as
Yeah.
well.
So let's start making it up here, we spread our own.
No, I get it, but not all that type of thing is necessarily speed critical. I mean, you could run patches like that overnight, different
Well, it
things.
depends. If you're looking at having testing being done and you're looking at having people place phone calls, because right now Trailside to Woodfield is the only area where we have our fiber line routing calls through it as well. So you have that on top of it when you're having testing being done. Let's say you gotta go and release a patch to Java. You're already looking at pretty much filling up that line between the two buildings and back here at Evergreen, because it needs to make a second hop. So there is it does start to clog up eventually.
We're currently at 10 gig between from here to Fox River and from here to Woodfield. And
We're at 1
from
gig from there.
Woodfield to Trailside is we're at 1. So if there's any hiccups and Woodfield goes down, then obviously inevitably Trailside is as well. So
So the main intent is when they rip up Main Street completely to have them drop fiber for us. Because it takes you all the way to downtown.
Right.
What are you gonna do from there?
what's that?
Drop it or are you gonna put it up in a pole?
There, actually, this includes, there's parts where obviously the river they would have to dig. The rest are actually on poles and rentals through the poles.
Down Milwaukee Street,
Mhm.
right? So you're buried until Milwaukee Street point.
The only burial actually is just to go under the river. Yep.
Oh, that's it?
That's
Everything
it,
else
and the
pole.
rest is on poles, and the cost includes maintenance, so if there's breakage, anything like that, I mean, that's included in that cost. And these are the two extreme scenarios. that they gave. I mean, there's a lot of different things he mentioned. We can address it however we want as far as, you know, there's more upfront we want to do or less upfront. That obviously varies what we want to do.
So what is a 120 a month dark fiber capacity lease versus a 240 month dark fiber IRU? Want to clarify that?
How much you're paying up
What's IRU?
That's a question, good question.
Basically, it's a 20-year and a 10-year deal that
Yeah.
that you presented, that's how you phrased it. So, obviously, the 20-year deal is a little bit more, substantially more upfront, but.
That's what I don't understand. I mean, usually spread it out over 20 years. I mean, the monthly reoccurring is cheaper. So he's rolling everything into a non-reoccurring. Maybe I calculator and add those up. It's old school, huh?
there?
So that's 3 million. Oh, sorry, non-recurring is 25. 1,700.
Now, if we wanted to up the ante with TDS, what does that look
I
like?
asked that 3 years ago. I just said, well, we have 10 between our buildings. What can we get that for? And it was, at the time, was 11,000 a month. If we one day go apples to apples between the buildings.
How much are we at right now?
1 gig from TDS, or from Woodfield to Trailside.
Or how much a month?
1,000 a month.
1,000.
Yep.
So it's 229 for a 120 lease and 265 total cost for a 240. So we don't own that.
If I leased it, I mean, once the lease is up, it's ours?
And he mentioned we could keep, yeah, actually it would be ours. Again, it's ours right now to do whatever we want to do with it as far as how we want to light it up at the ends. They're just giving us the pathway.
I guess that's what I meant, like literally, physically everything being ours, or we still own the,
What he's saying is a $1 buyout at the end of the lease, so
Yeah.
you own the product.
right.
You're still gonna have to lease the poles on that.
I want to lease the car and give it back to him again.
Sure.
So I gotta pay him again when he says, oh, you need something?
I guess that's kind of what I'm looking at, the difference between what we're paying TDS monthly versus what we would get when, you know, how long would it take us to actually experience that? So we're still paying them $340 a month in the long term. I mean, is the ultimate goal here just the increased capacity?
Increased capacity and there's more control over it. Exactly, and redundancy, more control over what we have running through.
I suggest for that kind of money, we start looking at antenna equipment. I could probably reach from here to Mars for that kind of money.
We can certainly, like I said, it's coming up in December, so we just want to know what direction, if you want us to
Yeah.
continue or look another route, that's what
How
we're
long
looking
are,
for direction on.
what does TDS make you sign? What kind of contract?
We did a 5-year originally. It's coming up, so I've already reached out to them and it's been a little, they haven't gotten back to me yet. As far as, you know, can we just do 1 year? Can we do less?
Yeah, I'd say we start looking into something.
Yeah, for that kind of money, let's
Yeah.
kind of just go nuts and see what's out there and what you can all do.
That sounds good.
Second item under the future planning piece is just, I know Dan, the last couple of months has mentioned, keep Fox River on your radar, keep Fox River on your radar. We are. And we're looking at device options for 15, 16. And one of the pieces that we are investigating, haven't necessarily solidified yet, is does every kid need to have a one-to-one? Or are there ways to make that more efficient from a labor and a cost savings perspective? Not necessarily diminishing access for children, but do we need to continue to replicate the one-to-one piece? So that's something that we're exploring, the question that we
Yeah, I would suggest we have a review to determine
So,
how much one-to-one time you need during the day, how much take-home time you need, that kind of thing. And if we're going whatever route we're going Chromebook, I sure would like to see that route for the other schools too.
yeah, makes sense.
But I think you're gonna hit 3 through 8, but you're gonna have to do them in portions. Or a 5-year cycle or something. You're gonna come back with something that details 1-1?
In a few months, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hurry, there's no 15, 16. So the intent is to roll out 14, 15 on 3, 5.
Yes.
Okay. That should give us, gonna be, then are you gonna go, so yeah, if you're gonna go
What
3,
about 6
5, what about 6, yeah.
Ideally, we'd like to do 6-8.
Just because of the type of device.
Why don't you gonna go with 3, 4,
Similar
and then a
for
5,
each
6, then a 7, then an 8, and back to K2. Let's give us a 5-year roll.
We were looking at doing a 4-year roll. Just longer term.
Yeah, I understand.
Because that fourth, sorry, that fourth year is made up of departments and areas that we don't necessarily buy for all the time. For example, maybe the fine arts, maybe STEM lab, maybe the E room, those types of things.
Yeah, I think those would be a separate discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So those are the two pieces under the future plan, the fiber, and you told us to do more investigating, come back. Again, we'll need December is our time frame on that. And then the feedback summary, Kathy was just gonna briefly talk to you about the iPad piece.
I can pass these around. These are the student response, or the teacher, the student, and the parent. And I can just briefly summarize them. If you have any questions, I can always answer them at another time also. Whoops, I
One of
should
each.
have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I should have kept one of each. Yeah, thank you.
Get to the other ones.
I have the ones from the beginning of the year. So if you look at the teacher one, it's just nice to see just a few high points here on the teacher one, that the daily use for students is up from 83% to 91%. All of the numbers on what they're using the computers for are showing a higher number, and also huge increase in the pre and post of the teacher comfort. And nice that the teachers are not as concerned about some of the device pieces as far as care and security. They still have some questions, but some of those numbers are down. And still concerned sometimes about the students using the device independently. And then nice that the teachers pointed out that they want to continue sharing the apps. That's their biggest need as far as staff development, and using the device with the smart board. So that's just an overview of what the teachers said.
How's that going with that link on there? We bought that, didn't we buy the Apple TV or something, a link to the smart board
We
with
decided to
the...
actually go a cheaper route and do a software version. It's called Reflector. It was considerably less.
How does it link
And-
through?
What's
How
that?
does it link through?
So we have a server set up that just takes on all broadcast traffic from iPads, and just, when you install this software, it just recognizes on your device. When you go ahead and do AirPlay, it recognizes the laptop name, and you can select the laptop
Okay, so
name.
the computer that's running the smart board is saying, hey, come talk to me? Is that what it is?
Like mother.
Right.
Yep, on your
Same thing
device,
as
do
Apple TV,
AirPlay,
so-
find the name of the laptop, yep.
So once you link to it on your own iPad, you link to it and it pops up
And
and...
what's nice about it is if teacher has all 5 kiddos sitting, you know, all 5 iPads, kiddos now can do that, and so they can be sitting and say, hey,
Look at this.
look at my stuff, and
Right.
the next group look at my
Mhm.
stuff, so it's very
Easy
intuitive
enough.
that way.
Yeah, great.
So under the students area, just a couple points. The students reported there was a big increase in the use of technology. Every day, 56%, so that was nice. And interesting that the students said that they're using and making more recordings and videos at school, but then at home, they're now making less, so it's kind of an interesting piece.
So why is there a 0 response on K,
On which one?
student response K, summary?
We didn't have kindergarten students take this.
Yeah, they didn't
Oh,
take the test.
gotcha.
And then nice on the back that it says that more students are using the device to create things. So that's what I like to see, recording your voice, making videos, taking pictures, a lot of explaining their thinking. So those are some cool pieces. And I show it on the back. And then let's go to the parent one. There you go. Thank you. I just put a couple notes on the front just for you, continued, as I read through all of the pieces from the parents. Just parents want to continue with the balance in instruction, so let's not forget the hands-on and concerns of that nature. So a nice balance, still appreciative of the teacher who has expertise to teach. Some questions about equitable time, about students being on or instruction from teachers, making sure that every classroom is working at the same level, and then some questions about do we have enough devices, but also some concerns about, are kids on computers too much, making sure they have rest because of the issues in health and student communication, so.
So how are we gonna attain a fair balance between classes across the district on the same grade level for students?
Well, I think as we had the pilot, and now we will be having more all classrooms K2, that'll become a standard part of instruction and coaching teachers that
Yeah, but is
Sarah will keep
administration
doing.
going to say these are the things we will be utilizing in the room, or is it a free-for-all?
I mean, it's not a free-for-all. In fact, as a grade level, they determine, go through an application process for apps that they want. And then if second grade decides we want app A, all of second grade gets that app, so that we have that equalizing piece. And then if I do this with app A, then either through myself as the conduit or through, sharing, I created a website to share a blog. We share things that way. And they really, even in the pilot where it was just half, if someone did this, they would take it and then spin it and do it in their room as well. So we were doing well in the pilot with equalizing it across the board.
Okay, 'cause that's the hard thing, 'cause you're obviously gonna get some people that really like it.
And it's hard because
And
it's
some
three
teachers
buildings
won't
and
like
they don't
it.
ever see each other, so my
Yeah.
hope was to be that conduit between the three.
Mhm.
And then I gave them a web place to share out what they were doing too.
Okay, so you're taking care of from school to school.
I'm trying.
She's
It's
doing a
hard,
great
it's not
job
easy.
on it. And then on June 10th, all of the teachers met with Sarah so that all of the teachers who didn't have iPads already have one for the summer so that they can be learning how to do that. And she offers classes for them to come in and be able to work on that, so.
So I'd sure like to see more in-service time spent on equalizing across the district for the apps and the technology.
There's a lot of learning.
Yeah, sure is.
And we're trying to integrate technology and curriculum work more so.
Mhm.
So that's our plan next year.
So that's off the iPads themselves. Okay, but now we're at what now? 5 per room?
5 per room,
Okay, K through 2.
K2.
Okay, and they're going to carts at night or when they're not being utilized. Do they plug in on the carts?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You can also sync from the cards.
Okay. It's not like we have one of those, the battery charger where you just lay it on the pad and it does the inductive charging
No
or
inductive
whatever.
charging.
That would actually save you all the,
That really took off, unfortunately.
yeah. Something about electrons kind of generating something. Anyways, so good, so then that K2 should be set. You're gonna give us an update in like a year from now and tell us how everything's going with it?
Sure can do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Anything else? Good. Okay. All right, anything else? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll adjourn from that.